Most retirees don't run out of money because they didn't save enough. They run out because they refused to sell one thing. Picture this. It's 3 in the morning. You're staring at the ceiling, doing the math for the 100th time. You've got your retirement accounts, some equity in your house, maybe Social Security in the future. And still that knot in your stomach says, what if it's not enough? Here's what almost no one tells you. The problem isn't just how much you saved. The problem is what you're still holding on to. I'm going to walk you through 7 things you should seriously think about selling before you retire, from emotionally easiest to hardest. These aren't random tips. These are the exact mistakes I've watched people cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in real retirement plans. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit, memberships and subscriptions you barely use. Picture a quiet country club parking lot. Your name's on the membership list, your card auto-renews every year, and you show up twice. I know someone paying $4,000 a year for a golf club. When I asked how often he played, he shrugged and said maybe 6 times. He was spending thousands of dollars a year for a logo on his bag and a story in his head. Same story with gym memberships you don't touch, streaming bundles you never watch, season tickets you give away more than you use. Every forgotten subscription is a tiny hole in your retirement bucket. 1 or 2 don't feel like much. Stack 10 of them over 20 years, and you're easily talking tens of thousands of dollars you'll never see again. Keep them, and you're not just wasting money, you're shrinking how long your retirement actually lasts. And the next thing on the list? It looks like fun on the surface, but it quietly burns through your future. Now picture a beautiful boat tied up at the marina on a calm summer morning, and imagine dollar bills drifting away from it like little waves. Big toys, boats, RVs, jet skis, can be amazing when you're using them all the time. The problem is what happens when life changes, but the bills don't. I had a client, we'll call him Tom, who bought a gorgeous 32-foot boat for $45,000. When his kids were young, they practically lived on that thing every summer weekend. Totally worth it. Fast forward 15 years, the kids are grown, moved away, busy with their own lives. Now the boat goes out maybe 3 or 4 times a season. The costs, though, are still full-time. Marina fees, insurance, maintenance, winter storage, roughly $6,000 every single year. That's thousands of dollars for a handful of days on the water. When he finally sold it, he got about $20,000. At first, he was disappointed. I paid more than double that, he said. But then we looked at the full picture. By selling, he freed up that $20,000 to invest. More importantly, he stopped burning $6,000 a year on something he barely used. Over a typical retirement, that one decision can easily swing his finances by around $200,000 when you combine avoided costs with growth on the money he unlocked. Keep a toy like that just in case, and you're not preserving a lifestyle, you're handcuffing your future. If you own more than one of these fun money pits, you're quietly erasing years of travel, experiences, and options from your retirement. And the next item on this list feels even more harmless because almost everyone has it, but most people never question whether they still need it. Look at your driveway. 2 cars, side by side, both insured, both maintained. But after you retire, how often do you truly need both? When you and your spouse were working, 2 cars made perfect sense. 2 commutes, different schedules, no coordination needed. But retirement is a different life. The mistake is keeping the old setup without running the new math. Even a paid-off car isn't free. Insurance, registration, maintenance, gas, and ongoing depreciation add up. For many people, a spare second car quietly costs a few $1,000s a year, whether it moves or not. I worked with a couple who decided to test this instead of guessing.
One of their cars had no loan, but it was costing about $3,000 a year just in basic overhead, insurance, tags, oil changes, minor repairs. So for 2 months, they pretended that car didn't exist. They shared one vehicle. They actually put it on the calendar, who needs it when. On the rare days they both had to be somewhere, one of them used a rideshare. Total Uber and Lyft cost for the entire 2-month experiment? Around $200. The result was obvious. They sold the second car, put about $15,000 in the bank, and stopped that $3,000 yearly drip. Over their retirement, that one decision is worth roughly $120,000 when you combine the money they freed up with what it can grow into. But here's the part the spreadsheet can't show. A car that doesn't move is still quietly taking time, trips, and memories away from you. It locks up cash that could be paying for experiences instead of sitting in the driveway. And the next thing you might need to sell is even more dangerous because it doesn't just sit there. It drags debt into retirement with it.
Picture a shiny new car in the driveway and a thick stack of monthly bills beside it. This is the exact mistake I see most often when people think they're ready to retire. They walk into retirement still making payments on depreciating stuff. Financed cars, financed boats, financed RVs, anything that's losing value while you're still sending the bank money. When you're working, sometimes your paycheck can cover for bad decisions. In retirement, every payment comes straight out of the nest egg you're trying to protect. One client retired with a $550 monthly payment on a late model car. He loved the car, but it was worth around $30,000 and dropping, and he still owed more than $20,000 on it at a solid interest rate. Think about that. He was paying interest every month on something that was losing value every month. We looked at an alternative. If he sold the car, even at a bit of a loss, and replaced it with a reliable $15,000 used car paid for in cash, that $550 payment disappeared. That's $6,600 a year of breathing room. Over the course of his retirement, simply not having that payment adds up to well over 6 figures. And because he no longer has to pull that $6,600 out of his investments every year, that money can stay invested and compound. The total impact of that one change can easily approach $250,000. He didn't trade comfort for sacrifice. He traded a logo on the hood for years of extra security. If you carry debt on anything that's going down in value, you're not just losing money, you're shortening how long your retirement can actually last. And the next leak on this list is even more frustrating because you're paying rent to store things you barely remember owning.
Now imagine a long hallway of metal doors at a storage facility, and behind one of them is a pile of stuff you haven't touched in years, quietly billing your card every month. Storage units feel harmless. It's only $100 or $150 a month. I'll sort it later. But later often turns into years, sometimes decades, while the auto-pay keeps running in the background. I know someone who was paying $150 a month for a storage unit. That's $1,800 a year. When I asked what was in it, they hesitated. Some furniture from our old house? Maybe boxes from my old business? They'd been paying for that unit for 7 years. That's over $12,000 spent to hide things they couldn't even clearly name. We went to see what they were protecting so carefully. Inside, a water-damaged couch, 3 boxes of paperwork from a business that closed in 2008, a broken lawnmower, and about 40 boxes of random household items that should have been donated or thrown out a long time ago. In a single afternoon, we sorted everything. A few boxes worth keeping came home and fit in a closet. The rest was donated or trashed. Then they canceled the unit. Just like that, $1,800 a year went back into their budget. Zoom out. Over a typical retirement, that $1,800 a year could easily become more than $70,000 if you invested it instead of paying it to a storage company. That's the real cost of procrastination. You're not just storing stuff, you're trading away future trips, experiences, and options to avoid making a decision today. Ask yourself a hard question. If everything in your storage unit vanished tomorrow, would your actual life change in any meaningful way? Next, we're going after something even more emotional because it's the reward car sitting in a lot of driveways right now. Picture a gleaming luxury SUV in your driveway, paint shining, leather interior perfect, while your future quietly shrinks behind the scenes. I'm not talking about a basic, reliable car that just gets you around. I mean the $60,000 to $80,000 luxury badge, the big SUV with every option, the high-end sedan you told yourself you earned, the sports car you bought to feel like you'd made it. One client of mine retired driving a $70,000 Mercedes. He genuinely loved everything about it. But when we laid out his retirement budget, he was worried. The numbers were tight. The car wasn't helping. His payment was around $900 a month. Insurance was higher than a normal car. It needed premium gas. Routine maintenance at the dealership cost far more than at a regular shop. All in, he was spending roughly $15,000 a year just to keep that car. Here's the contrast no one thinks about. That same money could be buying plane tickets, not oil changes. It could be paying for time with your family, not for a logo on the steering wheel. Over the course of a 20-year retirement, keeping that car could easily burn through $300,000 in direct costs. And if that $15,000 a year stayed invested instead, the opportunity cost pushes the total impact toward $500,000. He made a different choice. He sold the Mercedes and bought a 3-year-old Lexus for $30,000 in cash. Still comfortable, still safe, still a nice car, but no payment, lower insurance, cheaper maintenance. He freed up tens of thousands of dollars immediately and about $12,000 a year going forward. His stress about, do I really have enough, dropped fast. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your neighbors don't care what you drive. Your friends forget after a week. The only person impressed is you, and that feeling is incredibly expensive. The last thing on this list is the hardest of all, because it isn't just an object. It's where your whole story happened.
Picture your home, room by room. The hallway with old photos, the bedroom your kids grew up in, the backyard where you hosted birthdays and barbecues. For many people, the biggest and most emotional decision before retirement isn't about investments, it's about the house. Not sell or don't sell, but whether to keep an oversized house that no longer fits your actual life. You remember painting the nursery. You remember teaching someone to ride a bike in that driveway. It feels like part of who you are. But the house doesn't feel anything. It just sends you bills. I worked with a couple living in a 4-bedroom home worth about $400,000. The mortgage was paid off, which felt safe, but their kids had been gone for over a decade. 2 of those bedrooms were used maybe twice a year when family visited. Meanwhile, they were paying to heat, cool, insure, and maintain all of it. When we added everything up, property taxes, insurance, utilities, ongoing repairs, and upkeep, they were spending around $14,000 a year just to own that house, not counting a mortgage, just the cost of keeping it standing. At the same time, they were worried about whether they could afford to travel or handle future medical costs. When they finally sold and moved into a $200,000 condo, everything changed. They unlocked about $200,000 in equity, and their yearly housing expenses dropped dramatically.
Between the income that equity can generate and the lower bills, their cash flow improved by roughly $23,000 a year. That's the difference between "we hope it lasts" and "we have room to breathe." They stopped being full-time house managers. Weekends became trips, hobbies, and time with grandkids instead of yard work and repairs. Retirement isn't about owning more. It's about needing less so you can finally live more. In the next video, I'll show you why crossing $500,000 invested doesn't just change your portfolio, it changes how your retirement actually feels. Tap here to watch that now.